أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. I welcome all of you to another Corporate Connect session this week. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. All of those who've joined us in the Zoom session today, can you just quickly confirm in the chat box if I'm loud and audible to all of you? Quickly. Okay, barakallahu feek. I'm getting the responses, so I'm moving ahead, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, we had a very good session last week. Yeah? I was hosting it, mashallah. Okay, I hope you people have been working on your communication session. My respected students, please understand that communication is an extremely important aspect of our life. Anywhere you go in your life, you need to communicate. In your relationships, in your professional space, everywhere you need to communicate. So keep working on your communication skills. And inshallah, we have a very, very special guest today to speak to you on your health, on your lifestyle. And believe you me, all of this has a correlation to your productivity. You must have all noticed how you react after a heavy meal in the afternoon. You feel sleepy, you feel drowsy. If you have a meal which is not too good or too rich, it starts showing up on your health. And your health has a direct connection to your mental state, to your productivity. And so we really need to work on improving our productivity, because any company today is not going to hire you if you're going to be low on productivity. Companies want to hire professionals who are fit, who are ready to go through the toil. And trust me, it's so competitive that you really need to up your game. And alhamdulillah, we have with us Mrs. Hena Nafis to talk to all of you and give us some strategies on how we can optimize our lifestyle, our health, and a lot of other things, inshallah. Quick introduction about Hena Nafis. She is one of India's leading nutritionists and lifestyle consultant. She completed her graduation in nutrition from John Moores University, UK. And she's also holding an MSc degree in food science and technology from Victoria University, Melbourne, Australia. Along with this, she also holds a certificate of training in childhood and adults in weight management from the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, US. And she also has a certification in nutrigenomics, which is recognized by the NUGO Association, Netherlands. Hena, thank you so much for joining us for this session today. We would like you to start your presentation. As you start off your session, Hena, just to quickly let you know, we've been joined by students across all our streams and our program. In fact, there are also faculty members of the IOU who've joined us. And as I had mentioned to you, that this is an online university, and I know you are aware about the IOU, you're aware about Dr. Bilal, mashallah. The IOU has students across the globe, mashallah, and we've got faculties also who are across the globe working from home long before COVID happened. So over to you, Hena, inshallah, to begin your session. Bismillah. Hena, you're muted, so you will just have to unmute yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. And firstly, I would like to thank Mansoor Danish for inviting me for this program, and also to IOU for giving me an opportunity to speak to so many of you. I would like to talk about health, as I'm a nutritionist, and I'm going to talk about, how can we improve, rather optimize our own health. So optimize means, if you can see the screen, we all want to optimize everything in our lives, be it happiness, be it our wealth, be it education. So why not health? Because if you optimize your health, you have a lot which you can, achieve in life. So let's begin with, I've heard that most of you are students here and most of you are young here. So the first question comes to young minds is, why should I bother about health? I have no problems. My worries are different. I don't have health issues. So, so what are the worries of people who are students, who are young? Mostly it's about academic performance, career, jobs, finance. aesthetics, how do I look? Do I look good or not? And relationships, relationships with colleagues, friends, spouses, team members, friends. So these are things which worry you the most. So why do you really need to bother about health is the question. Now, the first thing which we need to understand is that what is health before we get into discussing that why do we really need to bother about our health. Now, health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity, right? So this is a WHO definition for good health. Now, of course, most of you don't have any disease, probably you're not suffering from anything like, say, hypertension or diabetes or any cardiovascular disease. And you think that why do I need to bother about it? It's something which older people need to worry about. It's not my concern at all. But we've all seen that during the pandemic, a lot of people have been suffering from problems, both physical, young, old alike. So physical problems, mental problems, and even social problems. And health is something which encompasses everything. It's just not about physical health. So that's the reason why you need to bother about good health, because it helps you with your mental function, your social status, with everything. So let's define what physical, mental, and social health means. When we talk about physical health, it's just not about not having diseases. It's about having enough energy, good energy, to be able to carry on with the daily chores of life. We are so busy, we have so much to do. We have to study, we have to look after the house, we have to commute, we have to do so much. And for all of that, we need energy. So even if you don't have disease, if you don't have energy, you will suffer. You will find yourself struggling to do your daily chores. The other thing is strength. You may have energy, but if you don't have strength to pick up things or to do things, you're not powerful, you can't do anything, you can't lift anything. Then if you lack strength, that also tells you that you were not in good health. Eye health. Eye health is extremely important in today's time, where most of the work which we are doing is on screen. You're studying on screen, you're earning on screen, you're teaching on screen, you're working on screen. Everything has gone on the online mode, and most of you students have anyways been studying online for a long time. So eye health is extremely important as well, right? Strong bones and muscles. We see a lot of people having body aches and pains, and they have problems lifting themselves up or doing anything. Especially people who are doing work who are working online, or who are on the screen the whole day. They have neck pain, and they have headaches, and they have pains in their fingers. So if you don't have good health, you will suffer in these aspects as well. And one thing I forgot to mention and put in the list was digestive health. Many of you suffer from indigestion, bloating. You feel heavy after a meal, and when you feel heavy and sluggish after a meal, it affects your performance. So this is all about physical health. So physical health is just not about absence of disease. It covers all these things. Now, coming to mental health. When we talk about mental health, we talk about concentration, memory, mood, which is very, very important for you students. If you can't concentrate, if you can't focus, you can't learn. If you focus in class and you realize that every time you have to give exams and you can't remember and recall what you learned, then your memory is suffering. So, and apart from all these things, if you're always feeling low, if you're feeling depressed, or if you're feeling angry, or you feel aggressive, your mood can affect your performance as well, your productivity as well. If you don't feel like doing anything, you're feeling depressed and low, you won't be able to study, you won't be able to do a good job, whatever you may be doing. And the third thing, which is very important, is social health. Now, it's about feeling happy. It's about giving happiness to other people around you. And also things like, poverty and, living in clean, hygienic conditions. All these things are determinants of health. Sense of belonging. Wherever you stay, if you feel, a lot of us, who don't belong to the countries where we live, we probably have migrated, our ancestors have migrated, or forefathers have migrated. And sometimes you don't feel that, you are made to feel that you don't belong to those places. So a sense of belonging is very important, and it's a social determinant of health. And again, concern for others, people around you. It's about community health as well. So it's just not about yourself. If your community is dirty, if your community is unhygienic, you won't feel healthy. If you don't have a park in your neighborhood, or if you don't have, trees in your neighborhood, that would also be a determinant of health. So in a nutshell, health is about all these things: physical, mental, and social. So it's just not about, absence of diseases, because that's what most of you must be feeling, that I don't have any disease. So why do I bother about health? But of course, you need to bother about all these things which we have listed, whether you have a disease or you don't. Trying to change the slide. Okay. So, earlier, I should say in the pre-pandemic era, we always thought about non-communicable diseases. Non-communicable diseases were diseases like diabetes and heart disease and cancer and respiratory disorder diseases and things like that. And our focus was always about avoiding diabetes and hypertension. And when we talk about lifestyle and nutrition, our focus was always on non-communicable diseases which are not infectious, which you don't spread to other people. But now, during the post-pandemic or during the pandemic, what we realized that communicable disease, which we thought that we have battled and we have gained victory over, has again come to the fore. And communicable disease, what I mean by communicable disease is infectious diseases like, COVID. So our focus has changed when we talk about lifestyle and nutrition and health, that it's not just about preventing non-communicable diseases, but now the focus is also on communicable disease, right? So, we have understood the importance of healthy living is extremely important, not only for diseases like diabetes and heart disease, but also for diseases like COVID and other infectious diseases. So let me first talk about NCDs, non-communicable disease. As I told you, I'll just tell you the figures of given by WHO. According to WHO, NCDs kill 41 million people each year, equivalent to 70% of all deaths globally. And out of the 4 major diseases which comes under this category are cardiovascular disease, like heart diseases, like stroke. The second is cancer. The third is respiratory disorders, and the fourth is diabetes. And we know that the leading cause of these 4 diseases are tobacco use, physical inactivity, harmful use of alcohol, and unhealthy diets. And a lot of these diseases are preventable. And you would be, if you come from low and middle income countries, you will be surprised to know that 77% of all NCD deaths happen in low and middle income countries. And the thing is that most of these diseases are preventable. Now, what we have also seen in the pandemic era, that, poor water, poor hygiene, climate change is causing communicable diseases as well. And we've also seen a good lifestyle. And if you're a healthy individual who doesn't have NCDs, you are protected against communicable diseases. Haven't we seen that people who had comorbid conditions like diabetes and hypertension, they had higher mortality rates during the pandemic? So the focus has changed. We have again started to refocus on communicable disease as well. And we have realized that the importance of healthy living or healthy eating is as important as it's to prevent non-communicable diseases. So that's why we all have to think about, we have to appreciate health now, because if you don't, you know how much we have suffered. Not only suffer in terms of, physical health, but also in terms of, survival. It's the pandemic has shown us not just about saving lives, it's also about saving livelihoods. So, it's very, very important that we need to refocus on our lives and try to appreciate the importance of healthy living. So I am sure that you must have understood that why should we focus on our health and why is it so important? And I'm sure that you must have got it by now. But what is the solution? How do we, optimize our health? How do we improve our health and make it better? So it's just not about being healthy enough to be able to carry on with life. It's about optimizing our health. How can we have the best of our health, right? Like if you have good health, it helps you in your spiritual life also. It helps you pray better. It helps you, ponder over things, because if you are productive, you will have time to, to engage in spiritual life as well. But if you don't have energy, then you don't have, you don't feel like doing anything. So you just do things which are very important, like earning money for your family, and then you neglect your, your spiritual obligations. So that's why a good health helps you in both your lives. It will help you achieve the life in this world as well as the hereafter. So what really helps us? We want 100%. Like as Muslims, as we have to be the best of everyone, isn't it? So how can we be better than everyone? Is by being healthy, both physically and mentally. And what can help us is our lifestyle. So we don't have to wait to get diseased, or we want to achieve 100% health. And how do we do that? We do that by improving our lifestyle. Our lifestyles can come into play and help us achieve that. So when we talk about lifestyle, there are 4 things which comes into play. The first being nutrition, and I'm talking about nutrition because I'm a nutritionist. But the other factors which are equally important are physical activity. That how much do you move? Do you really do exercise or you don't? Sleep, and how do you manage your stress, your mood, and stuff like that. Now, talking about nutrition, most people are scared about nutrition as well, because they feel that if you talk about nutrition, it's about giving up on things which you like, and you can't eat what you like, isn't it? But and a lot of people are confused today, because when you go on the net, you get so much information about healthy eating, and somebody might say that this is good and somebody might say that is bad. You shouldn't have gluten, you shouldn't have milk. Somebody says you should have milk. So there's so much of confused information, or so much of differing opinions. That's something which confuses you. So the first thing which you must understand, that what is a good diet. So let me explain this to you, that there's no one size fits all. There's no one diet which is the best for you. Like many times what we do when we talk about healthy eating is that we think about giving up everything which we like, and and then we feel very morose and we feel very depressed. But it's not about giving up things which you like at all. It's about, you feel that, okay, I'm a doctor, or I'm a, I work in, I'm a businessman, or I work, I do night shifts. So how do I lead a healthy life or eat well? It's not possible for me. But and because of that, because I'm not going to leave my job to eat healthy or to lead a healthier life. So you have to understand that you don't need to change your schedule or change your routine to become healthy. You can build around it. And that's the reason why I say that there's no one size fits all. So if you say you're a night shift worker and you go to bed at around 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock or 2 o'clock is dinner time for you. You should not try to have dinner by 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So that's what I mean when I say that there's no one size fits all diet which we have, right? So it's not about eating a particular superfood, or it's about eating this or eating that. It's about eating everything, really. So I want to explain what healthy eating means. When we talk about healthy eating, there are 4 pillars to healthy eating. And the first is balance, the other is portion, variety, and moderation. I'm going to explain each one of them. Now, when we talk about balance, the first thing which comes to my mind when we talk about balance is not just balanced diet. It's about balance between the good and the bad. Like, a lot of us, we, despite knowing that what is good for us, and no sugar, no salt, and less oil, and all of that, we still can't keep to that. And we feel that, we feel very, helpless at times, that, we really can't follow and do, eat well. The balance means striking a balance between the good and the bad. And there's a thumb rule here, it's a very simple rule which most of us can follow, is the 80-20 principle. Now, 80% of the time, if you eat right, you have room for 20%. So 20% of the times you can eat what you like to eat, because if you don't do that 20%, you won't be able to achieve mental health. You might feel sad all the time that you can't eat what you like to eat. So the balance is about, striking a balance between the good and the bad. And the second bit in this whole jigsaw puzzle is to eat a balanced diet. Now, when we talk about balanced diet, what we mean is, eating all food groups like carbohydrate, fat, protein, fiber. Like many times we see that, in a hurry, you're only eating bread in the morning, or you're just having a cup of coffee. Now, that's not a balanced meal. A balanced meal will be a meal which has all the food components. So say you're having a sandwich and you just put some cucumber slices on, or just a cheese slice on your bread, then that's not a balanced meal. So to make a sandwich balanced, on the bread, you need to put, vegetables. There should be some protein, either an egg or a chicken or cheese, and the carbohydrate comes from the bread. That's when the food becomes balanced. So that's what I mean by balance. Now, coming to portion, what we eat, is important, but how much we eat is equally important. And when I say that, what I've seen is that, there are two kinds of people. There's some people who are extremely health conscious, and there's some who just don't bother. So people who are very conscious of what they eat, they tend to, always eat healthy, and they never eat unhealthy food at all. Now, one needs to understand that even if you're eating healthy food, portion matters. And even if you eat unhealthy food, portion matters. So I always say this to all my patients, that if you're eating your food, whether you're eating healthy or unhealthy, you should never overeat. The amount counts. So how much you eat really matters, and that needs to be worked out for every individual, right? So portioning of a meal is very important. Let me give you an example. Like say fruits are healthy, are very healthy, is what we all know, that we should be, the WHO recommendation is that we should be eating 5 servings of fruits and vegetables, out of which 2 servings should be fruits. Now, if you eat too much fruits, like say you're eating all the fruits, many fruits, and in huge quantities, that fruit can increase your triglyceride levels, because it's very rich in carbohydrate. If you don't burn it, it gets stored in the body as fat. So portion matters. Even if you eat unhealthy food, you can't overeat. So make sure that you don't overeat, whether you're eating healthy or unhealthy. The second thing is eating variety. That many of us, we have, just to make life easy, we just keep on eating the same thing day in and day out. Now, if you don't eat a variety of nutrients, and if you don't take, use food to your advantage, there's so many different varieties Allah has created, mashallah. If you don't eat those, you end up with deficiencies in your body. If you eat the same thing day in and day out, you always get the same profile of nutrients. Say if you eat eggs every day and you don't eat fish, you're only getting the nutrients which is present in egg every day. So what you would get out of the fish or the chicken, you're missing out on that. So variety is equally important. So make sure that your diet is varied. Say, for instance, if you eat fruits, just don't, I've seen often that people just focus on 2 or 3 fruits. Try and eat different produce, try and eat seasonal, and try and eat different colors, because you should eat a rainbow of colors, when you choose your fruits and vegetables, because variety is a spice of life, and variety is also key to, good health. Last but not the least is the principle of moderation. So moderation, not deprivation, is key to healthy eating. Many times, you like certain things, which you really like it and you want to have it. So eat it in moderation. Don't deprive yourself, because, when you deprive yourself, it brings in, a feeling of being, you feel helpless, you feel sad, you feel, you are in a state of despair most of the time. You feel, what am I earning for, that I can't even eat what I like to eat? So it's very important that, you eat what you like to eat, because it's integral to health, to your health. It will help you feel happy. So if you want to eat something which you like, eat it, but don't eat it with a vengeance. You have to tell yourself that I can eat what I want to eat if it comes in that 20%, which I told you earlier. Now, there's a very easy way of doing this 20%. Say, for instance, in India, like in most households, we eat 3 main meals, which is like 21 meals in a week. I know in Western, in some countries where, people do eat 2 main meals. So out of those 21 meals or those 14 meals which you eat, 20% of that, you can eat what you like to eat. And also remember that what you eat, you don't overeat. Say, once a week you eat a donut, or you eat, a samosa, or you eat a pizza, or you eat a piece of cake. Make sure that you don't eat it with greed or guilt. Because if you do that, then you overeat. You have to tell yourself that I can eat it, and I'm allowed to eat this, and I can eat it. That's good for my health. Inshallah, it will be good for your health. But don't overeat it, right? So you have to kind of imbibe this in your life. If you talk about healthy eating, it's about following these 4 things. If you don't practice this 4 principle when you practice healthy eating, you are actually, even if you're eating any superfood, you're not doing much good to yourself. So as I said, why 100% health? If you come back to 100% health, it gives you the same things which you're aspiring for as a student. Because if you have good health, you can perform well, you can have a good career, because if you have good marks and you've achieved good grades, then you get a good job and you can have a illustrious career. You'll be able to manage your finances better. And a lot of times people say health is wealth or wealth is health. If you have good health and good wealth, then obviously your relationships are going to be great. So, that's the reason why you need to really focus on, achieving good health. And I think I should go back to my previous slide where I was talking about a good lifestyle. Now, when I talk, I focus on nutrition, but I think I should talk about physical activity as well. Now, I see a lot of people, they go out and work out, they go to gyms, they go to, sports clubs, and they go for walks and stuff like that. But physical activity is just not about, going for a class somewhere for an hour or 2. Physical activity means being active. And what we've seen and what we have observed both during the pre-pandemic and during, now during the pandemic era, is that, most of us sit a lot. We don't move. So it's about movement. Especially students, they keep on sitting and studying, and they 4 hours, 5 hours have gone past and you have really not gotten up from your seats. So physical activity just doesn't mean exercising, it means moving. So movement is extremely important. The other thing which is very, very important is sleep. Like many of you, you have assignments, you have other things to do, you have other commitments, and one thing which we really miss out on is sleep. What is very important that we must sleep at least 7 to 8 hours every night. Now, if you have sleep deficit, it will affect your health. It will affect your mood. It will affect your memory. It will affect your energy. And sleep, deprivation can even lead to hypertension. Many times, when you're young, you feel I'm just getting a headache, but probably it's not headache. If you're sleep deprived, if you're just sleeping 4 hours or 3 hours every night, you may develop hypertension even if you are young, right? So, when during the pandemic, what has happened is, people lost, the whole idea of routine in their lives, and the sleep patterns, was profoundly affected in most cases. So sleep helps in recovery. Sleep gives you rest. And if you're not rested, you don't feel energetic. It's just like charging your mobile phone, which you do every day. So you have to sleep to recharge, rejuvenate your body. And if you're not sleeping enough, then you're not doing any good to yourself. And of course, stress management. How you deal with your stress again affects how healthy you're going to be. So again, you have to focus on all these 4 things if you want to achieve 100% health. And as I told you, earlier, that it's about why we need to achieve this 100% health, because it will help you achieve what you have actually set out to achieve. Thank you for listening. I think with this, I've come to an end of my session. So are we open to questions now?
Sure, Hena. Thank you so much for your presentation. We're going to open up the forum for questions, and you're requested to use the chat box to post your question, or if you wish to ask the question, you can raise your hand, and I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself. Brother Saleh, you're on YouTube, so if there are questions coming in over there, you can send it across to me through WhatsApp. Yes, so we have a hand raised by Brother Abdul Rahim. Brother Abdul Rahim, I'm going to ask you to unmute yourself and you can pose your question.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
My name is Abdurrahim. I'm from Somalia, but now I live in Bangladesh. I would like to ask you, dear sister, first I have to say thank you, and also, dear sister, thank you for your good presentation and your time, all of you there. And my question is, what is the recommendation that you can give us? Sometimes, like example, when I'm sleeping at 10 p.m., like how many hours before I can eat food, and what kind of food that can affect my sleeping?
Brother Abdul Rahim, can you just repeat the question and be a little slow and a little bit louder? Yes.
Okay, thank you. I know my English is not good.
No, that's okay. It's not about the English. It's just that you need to be a little more slow and louder.
Thank you. I mean, sometimes.
You want a recommendation on what kind of food, and then I couldn't follow you.
Yeah, what kind of food and that can affect the sleeping. You know, sometimes we eat like 9 p.m. and then how can it be? Yeah.
Okay, so your question is what kind of food has an effect on our sleep? Is that your question?
Yeah. And and how many hours before we can eat?
Sure. So there are two questions here, Hena. The first question is, and you can mute yourself, Abdul Rahim, now. The first question is what kind of food? Yes. Okay, please go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
So to answer his question, what kind of food to eat before you sleep, right? So I think, you can eat, your dinner, and a dinner should be a balanced meal where you should have some carbohydrates, some protein, and some fiber. So say if you eat rice, or if you eat, like chapatis, or if you eat bread or wheat, so you have one of that. And then with that, you can have, a protein, which could be a chicken or fish, mutton, beef, and some vegetables. So this is something which is a very generic formula which we follow. It's a balanced meal. Now, say if you are not physically very active, you should not eat too much of the rice and the chapatis at night. You can reduce the amount of the bread or the rice which you've been eating. And because see, if you eat too much, if you eat a very heavy meal, it will affect your, all the resources in the body will be geared towards digesting that, and it will not let you sleep better. So your food should not be very heavy and should not be very, very rich. See, I don't know if you have a sleep disorder, because if you have problems going to sleep, then you can include certain other foods, like you could possibly eat a small banana before you go to bed, or you can have a small glass of milk, because both these foods have something called tryptophan, which induces sleep. But if it's just a simple question that what should I eat for dinner or before I sleep, you should eat a balanced meal. We should have a carbohydrate, protein, and a fiber. And it should not be very rich in fat, so that, because if you eat a very heavy meal, it will slow down your digestion and it will affect your sleep. Now, the second part of the question was that how many hours before sleeping should you eat? You should at least have your dinner 2 hours before you sleep, so that your food is digested, and you and you don't have problems going to sleep, and the body can actually get the sleep process on. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you for that. The next question, and this is one which has come on the YouTube. The questioner would like to know, now this is getting really interesting. What's healthier, half roast meat or fully roasted meat?
I think fully roasted meat, because half roasted meat is not just about nutrition, it's also about food safety. And if the food is not well cooked, if the meat is not well cooked, it could carry pathogens, I mean microorganisms, bacteria, viruses, and things like that. So it's always better to have a well-cooked meat rather than a half-cooked meat.
Okay, thank you. We have a hand raised, so we will first go to Samia Pervez. I'll ask you to unmute yourself, and then I'll come back to you, Suleiman. Samia, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My question is, if we want to skip our meal, whether I skip my breakfast or my lunch or my dinner, which is more important for our health? I want to skip one meal.
The first question is that why do you want to skip your meal?
I want to dieting for dieting. I have overweight, so I want to skip one meal. I don't know. I skip from my lunch, my breakfast, or my
when it comes to skipping meals, like healthy eating never advocates skipping meals as such. So it's not a good idea, because if you skip your meals, like say if you have you can make your meal lighter, you can eat lesser, and if you eat less for dinner, it helps you in weight loss, of course. But never skip your breakfast, because breakfast is the first meal of the day, which gives you nutrients and nutrients for energy, right? Because if you skip breakfast, you will feel lack of energy throughout the day. So I would say that don't try to skip meals, and if at all you want to reduce the number of calories you consume, then you should make your dinner lighter.
Okay, thank you. We'll ask Suleiman to unmute himself and ask his question. Suleiman, please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is Ibrahim Suleiman from Ghana. My question is that, is it advisable for someone to take water during the night? I mean, wake up during the night. Is it advisable for someone to take water?
Is it advisable to take water at night? Okay.
Yeah.
There's no problem in taking water at night. If you feel thirsty, you must drink water. But if you drink too much water at night, then you might be waking up at night to go to the loo. So it will disturb your sleep, and that would your body does not rejuvenate or recharge if you don't sleep well. So don't drink lots of water before bedtime. But of course, if you feel thirsty, you must drink water. Now, talking about water, I mean, you should check the color of your urine in the morning. If it's too dark, that means that you're drinking less water and you need to drink more water. If it's pale color, then that means that whatever amount of water you've been drinking is enough.
Okay, thank you. There's a question in the chat box. Seher would like to know if, because of any illness in the leg, or the person is not able to do any kind of exercise or walk, what kind of an exercise is it recommended for the person to stay physically active?
Well, if the person cannot move completely or is slightly immobile, so
that is not specified. So I think you can just answer both, maybe.
Right. So say in case if you are you can move a little bit, then you should try and move every few like say in an hour. You should not be seated for more than 30 minutes or 45 minutes. The rule is that for every 3 minutes, for every 30 minutes you're sitting, you should be standing 3 minutes. So if you can't stand because of any, health condition, at least, try and move every 30 to 35 minutes, move from one place to the other. If you're sitting on one side of the, on the bed, you try and move to the other side of the bed. Maybe get up from the bed and go on, sit on the sofa. So movement is very, very important. Now, if you just can't move at all, if you're completely paralyzed, then obviously you just can't move. So all that you can do is try and move your limbs, try and kind of contract your muscle and relax your muscle so that at least there is some movement. I think that's the best way that you can increase your mobility. And you could always, whatever part of the body is more mobile, try and move that as much as you can. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Seema, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Actually, a few minutes ago, ma'am just told us that, just before going to sleep, 2 hours before going to sleep, we can take the dinner or whatever meal.
Right.
So my question is related to this because, in our science classes, we have studied that, I don't know, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the process of digestion would take 3 to 4 hours for the food to get digested. So you said that after having a meal, we can go to sleep after 2 hours. So if the process of digestion is going to take 3 to 4 hours, that means that, in a matter of 2 hours, our digestion wouldn't have been completed. So
sorry, but that's an ideal situation, right? Say, most of us are working. If you are back home from work at around 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock, and you sleep by, say, you won't be back home before 8, 9 o'clock. So if you have a meal at, you have to eat a meal at around 6 o'clock, sleep at 10 o'clock. So, that's not going to happen. And then, also remember that even while you're sleeping, your digestion is working. So if 2 hours have passed, you're at the remnant end of your digestive process. So that the body can handle. So, I am saying minimum of 2 hours before you go to sleep. It shouldn't.
Okay, what you mean is that, 50% of the work would have been done. So it's not going to,
No, I don't mean 50% of the work has been done. I'm talking from a practical point of view, because, and you have to eat your meal minimum 2 hours before you sleep. If you want to eat, 5 hours before you sleep, you are more than welcome. And what I have observed in my career is that most people who have very early meals and then they sleep late, they tend to look for snacks in the house.
Okay.
Because they get hungry. Say you sleep at 12 o'clock, or say 11 o'clock at night. And if you have your meal at, say, 7 o'clock, and you are up and about, you don't sleep, you're awake. And then, out of boredom or out just for comfort, you start looking for food at home. Isn't it? So sometimes eating a very early meal is counterproductive, because, you eat your meal plus you start, eating snacks. So that's the reason, why, we tell people that at least 2-3 hours before you sleep, you should have your meal.
So in that case, can I phrase it like this, saying that, if there is no practical difficulty, and, if somebody can control themselves and not eat anything, and maintain a gap of 4 hours before their dinner, it's very good for the health?
Not really. There are a lot of other things which matters also. So it's not that if you eat 4 hours before the dinner, you will have very good health. But you can try and see if it works for you.
Okay. I've muted
As
you,
I
Seema.
said,
I would. Sorry. Okay. Go ahead. Yes. So I've muted you, Seema. I would request the questioners to not engage in a discussion, because there are a lot of questions which are coming in and we have limited time. So just pose your question and then allow the speaker to just give the answer. And then if you have further doubts, we'll try and see if we can post the question later. Saleha, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question? Saleha. Okay. It's taking time. So Nash, I would request you to unmute yourself and ask your question, please.
Yeah, Assalamu alaikum. You mentioned that we can eat what we love 20% of the time. Do you believe this can be followed by someone who has insulin resistance?
Of course, insulin resistance is, again, it's not a disease, it's a condition. See, if you want to eat, 100% of the time you want to eat good stuff, you are more than welcome to do that. But most people struggle to do that, right? So that is why if you follow an 80-20 principle, you can eat, what you like 20% of the time. That's what I meant when I said that. I didn't mean that you have to eat wrong food. If you're happy eating healthy all the time, that's absolutely fine. You eat healthy all the time. Now, talking about insulin resistance, you could possibly, like to eat a lot of chicken or fish or meat. If you eat, meat, it will not affect your insulin resistance. Because if you eat too much of sweets and carbohydrate, that's where, your insulin levels will get affected. And if you're physically inactive, your insulin levels are affected. So, again, a way to balance, wrong eating is also physical activity. Say if you've eaten something wrong, you shouldn't have eaten, or that's not very healthy, then of course, you can always walk and, burn those calories, what you've consumed. So, there are ways whereby, you can actually, offset what the wrong things you've done. Yeah, of course, if you have diabetes, you should not indulge in few things. But see, today nutrition science has gone through a paradigm shift. Even for diabetics, we sometimes work out things which a diabetic patient likes, and we give them in the diet, and we give them a compensation mechanism through which they can compensate for that sweet or the extra carbohydrate that person has eaten. So yeah, there is a room for everything, and if you can do something 100%, why not?
Okay. All right.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
Assalamu
assalam.
alaikum.
We'll come back to you, Saliha. Saliha, yes, I had asked you to unmute yourself.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah, madam, you said that mental health is very important regarding health. So just I want to know what kind of food, is there any kind of food when you eat that you can calm yourself, like, mood swings, you can, like, when you are having a very bad day, if you eat something, you can, or regularly you can consume that, you will have a calm mental health. And if someone is suffering from depression or something, if there are any healthy diet, like, you increase that type of food so that, it will help really for your health. To maintain that.
There are
Thank
foods
you
which,
so much.
see, when it comes to healthy eating, and if you want a good mental health, you want your brain to function well, you need to eat a balanced diet again. It's about eating all the nutrients which is needed. See, many a times, people eat carbohydrates, but the quality of carbohydrates are not good. If you eat too much of sugar all the time, what happens is,
Hello, Hena, you're not audible. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, I think she's just got disconnected, so we will just wait for Hena to log back in.
can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
I didn't realize that I was on mute. Yeah, so as I was saying, that if you eat too much of sugar, it's not good for the brain. Secondly, there are foods which can, enhance brain activity. Things like omega-3 fatty acids, which are present in, oily fishes, nuts, like walnuts and seeds are good for the brain, which helps in the cellular function of the brain. Thirdly, foods which are rich in something called tryptophan, like things like bananas and things like rice. All these things are rich in tryptophan. Nuts are rich in tryptophan. Milk is rich in tryptophan. So if you have all these things, this will help you with the proper brain function. The other thing which is very important is calcium. When you have low calcium levels in your blood, even that affects your brain function. And if you have low iron, because the blood flow is not good in the body, that can also lead to depression. So these are the things which can actually, that's the reason why we always say eat a balanced diet, so that, all the nutrients are coming in to your body. And also remember one thing, that, it's not just one nutrient which will give you the effect. Sometimes two nutrients have a synergy. Say if you have, like a carbohydrate with a little iron rich food, you will get more energized, right? So it's about eating a balanced diet, really.
Okay, all right. The next question is on the effect of non-organic food on our health. Today in supermarkets, we've got these organic sections and normal foods. So, what are the effect of these unorganic food on our health, or non-organic food on our health?
Well, according to various studies, in terms of nutritional content, non-organic food is no different from any organic food. The only difference is that organic food, is lesser on pesticides and chemicals, right? So, and fertilizers and things like that. So they have less chemicals. So if you have, it can help you with cancer prevention and things like that. There are some studies which have shown that organic food can also, I mean, if you have too much of heavy metal in your food, if there are pesticide residues and things like that, that can also affect your brain function. That can cause hormonal imbalances, right? But at the same time, organic food is quite expensive, which is something which not everyone can afford. So, the best thing to, if you can afford to have organic food, you might as well go ahead and have organic food. But if you find it expensive, then, there are mechanisms by which, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has really made a body it's a very efficient. So our body actually knows how to detoxify these chemicals. So if you sleep well, if you eat well, if your liver function is good, the liver itself will detoxify all these chemicals out of your body. And the other thing which is very important is hydration. So if you drink enough water, you will be able to release toxins from the body. If you exercise, you will release these toxic load out of your body. So if you can't afford to have organic food, sleeping well, drinking enough water, exercising, apart from eating, a nutritionally well-balanced meal, will help you deal with, these pesticide and, chemical residues in the body.
Okay. I'm going to come back to those who've raised their hand. There are a lot of questions which were there in the chat box. There's a question on belly fat, where the questioner would like to know that if someone is trying to lose their belly fat and they're working on it, so how many hours do you advise them that they should, how many hours before they go to sleep should they have their last meal? And what is the highest amount of balanced diet in the food? I'm not sure. I think she's talking about the food consumption.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, as far as belly fat is concerned, the few things which really matters when it comes to belly fat is your carbohydrate intake. Why do you get, a big belly in the first place? Is because, you're possibly eating more than what you're burning. So if you're eating more calories than what you're burning, the excess calories getting stored in the belly, So the first thing that you have to see is that the amount of food you're eating, you have to put a check on that. See, it's not about the time, the dinner time always. You might be eating dinner at, around, 5 p.m. in the evening and sleeping at, say, 11 o'clock. But if you have a very high calorie dinner, if you have very high calorie breakfast and a very high calorie lunch, and then you don't move at all, you will develop belly fat, right? So the first thing which you have to look at is the amount of calories you're consuming and the amount of calories you're burning. So, reduce the amount of food you eat and increase physical activity. Number two is when people don't move. There are some people, who work out every day. They go to the gym or they work out on exercise bikes or ellipticals and all of that. But still, the belly fat doesn't go. Because, after doing that 1 hour of exercise every day, the whole day they don't move. They're just sitting and doing their work, So movement is extremely important. As I said earlier also, that for every 30 minutes you're sitting, you should be standing 3 minutes. So say you're working on your computer and you can't get up and go somewhere, at least stand and start doing some work when you are, working on your comp or, if you're sitting for too long. So it's very important to move. Number 4 is that a lot of people, as have insulin resistance. If you are from the Indian subcontinent, we do have genetically, we are wired to have high insulin in our body. So to decrease insulin, if you have insulin resistance, you definitely need to reduce the amount of carbohydrates you're consuming and increase the amount of protein you intake. I've seen that, most women, they tend to eat little less protein. And sometimes, they may be eating the right amount of calories and doing everything right, but still have a belly fat is because they're not consuming enough protein in their diet, right? So, and another reason for belly fat is stress and lack of sleep. If you don't sleep enough, your body, considers that as stress. Or if you're very stressed out and you have too much of worry on your head, the body starts to produce more hormones called, stress hormones, especially cortisol. And if you have high cortisol because of excessive stress in your life, you will find it very difficult to move belly fat. So of course, stress management, proper sleep, apart from the dietary changes, is extremely important if you want to lose belly fat. Thank you.
Okay, I'll take 2 or 3 questions. The first one is, what is an ideal time to have your breakfast in the morning? That's one question. The second question, the questioner says she's not motivated to eat and she tries to spend the entire day just having biscuit and tea. and she skips all her meals. How does she motivate herself to eat balanced food? And also, do you have any advice about healthy food for children? From what age should we start giving them a balanced diet?
So the first question was
The breakfast.
the breakfast. See, you should eat your breakfast within an hour of rising. If not, if you delay it and you're too busy, maximum 2 hours before, after you wake up. So, because breakfast is your energy giving meal of the day. So if you don't fuel yourself in the morning, you will feel lack of energy, maybe not in the morning, but it will be a carry, you'll be carrying forward that lack of energy, and you'll feel very hungry during evenings or at night. And people who miss breakfast are the ones who, have a lot of cravings. So it's very important that when you wake up in the morning, within an hour or maximum within 2 hours of waking up, you should have your breakfast. Now, say you're very busy and you don't have time. So you could possibly just have few nuts in the morning, drink a glass of water, have few nuts, maybe 5-6 almonds and 2-3 walnuts, or maybe just one date for that matter. And then, you could have your breakfast maybe after 2 hours. So that was question 1. The question 2 was?
The question 2 was on how to motivate myself to eat a balanced food. I'm living on biscuits and tea whole day.
See, if you're living on biscuit and tea whole day, which also means that I'm not sure, but you may be suffering from, undiagnosed depression, because why aren't you feeling like eating? So, try and see that, what is the precipitating factor? Why do you feel the way you're feeling? And try and, fix the problem first, because, many times because of your emotions, you don't feel like eating. So if you have some emotional problems where you're feeling sad, or you're feeling lonely, or you're feeling, whatever, you need to first address that problem and see why you're not feeling hungry. Number 2 is that you could have iron deficiency in the body. Now, if you don't eat at all, and if you have too much tea and coffee, it's like a catch-22. We don't know because of the deficiency you're not eating, or because of not eating, you're getting deficiency. But if you have iron deficiency anemia, you have lack of appetite. You don't feel like eating. So, if it's like a chronic problem and you just don't feel like eating, you can check for an iron deficiency and see if you have it. And if you have iron deficiency, you need to correct it. And and the other way of, practical, easy way to come out of this problem is that, maybe you don't like cooking, or, you don't want to spend time doing that, or you're too busy. So maybe start with ready-made foods, and, it doesn't have to be processed and packaged. It could even be, just eat one fruit in the morning, just have an apple or a banana, because even that doesn't need much preparation. So you can just have a banana, and then you can have maybe some nuts, and then again, you can have another fruit, maybe have some, a small tub of yogurt, or drinks, a glass of milk, because, and that's how you kind of start eating. And slowly, because, once you start eating, you will feel like eating. If you don't eat, your stomach is an elastic bag. It will become smaller and smaller, and your appetite will get lost. So I think, first, don't get into preparation of meal. Try and eat things which are ready to eat, and then slowly build it up.
And the next question was on children. What kind of a diet should be given to them, and what's the right time to start giving them balanced diet?
Well, any child above 3 years of age needs to be given a balanced diet, right? Once his, the oral development has happened and he can chew and he can eat, he should be given a balanced diet. That's where, proper normal eating begins. And once your child is 3 years old, you should be giving him whatever you eat, and the child should eat with the family, and the child should not eat alone, and have a separate meal, because, the sooner you get your child, habituated to eating what you eat, it helps in the development of the child. And, don't try to give boiled and softened food to children, because, then their oral development doesn't happen. They should be challenged with different textures and different kind of foods, because that's how the development happens. So yeah, from the age of 2.5 to 3, you can start giving your child a balanced meal. Maybe the quantities would be lesser than yours, but yeah, you can start as young as that.
Okay. I'll now again invite people to ask question on the mic. Hafsa, please unmute yourself and ask your question, and come to the question directly, inshallah.
Okay, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for your presentation. It's really, it's very beneficial. It's very nice. I would like to ask us about what to eat exactly. For example, we feel always hungry before going to sleep. You said that you need 2 hours or 3 hours to digest the food. What can be eaten if you feel hungry after dinner, for example? Like things. Second thing is we have to eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, and it's very expensive. And in Muslim world, what programs do you do like encourage people to grow? For example, like how to say, how can we replace these things? Do you get my question?
I did get your first part of the question where you asked that what do you eat, after dinner when you feel hungry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say you could eat. It depends on how hungry you feel. Now, when it comes to hunger, you need to understand there is something called physical hunger and there's something called emotional hunger. Now, if you already eaten a hearty meal, you should not be feeling hungry, first of all. If you do, then you could just drink a glass of water and check if you're still hungry, because many times people can't differentiate between hunger and thirst. It's sometimes, it's thirsty and they feel like, I need to eat more. Because see, if you've had a hearty meal for dinner, that should sustain you for the next 3 to 4 hours. If that's not happening, maybe the amount which you've eaten for dinner was not enough, or the balance of the meal was not right. Okay. Now, and also see that if you drank enough fluids with your meal, like, are you drinking enough water or not? So that's one. Coming to number, the differentiation between physical and emotional hunger. Now, say you've eaten a meal, you drank a glass of, you felt hungry, you drank a glass of water, and after 30 minutes, you're still feeling hungry, then that's physical hunger, right? Probably you didn't meet your requirements and your body is asking you to give it more. You could possibly have some nuts, you can have a fruit. Pistachio is one nut which is very high in something which we call melatonin, which helps in inducing sleep. So, you could possibly have 20 to 25 pieces of pistachio, or, even things like almonds. These have magnesium in it, which is calming to the brain. It will help you sleep better. You could have like maybe a small cup of, like a herbal tea, like a chamomile tea or something, which can also help you in inducing sleep, which are all healthy. And if you still feel very hungry, you can possibly eat an apple or a fruit. Kiwi again is a very good fruit if it's available in your part of the world, which helps in inducing sleep. There has been a study, if you eat 2 kiwis, it really makes you sleep well. So that's the physical bit. Now, if you see that, you, after consuming your meal, you drank your water, you had a fruit, you had the nuts, and you're still feeling hungry, and you're feeling hungry for a particular food, you want to have that particular brownie, or you want to have a piece of chocolate, or when it's very specific for a specific food, then it's actually emotional hunger. And if it's emotional hunger, or you started feeling bored, you didn't have much to do and you want to eat something and you don't know what to eat, then it means that it's emotional hunger. And emotional hunger should always be denied, because if you keep on giving into your emotions, you'd overeat, and the body actually doesn't need it at that point of time. It will actually cause problems in the body. It will cause weight gain, it can give you insulin resistance, it can cause bloating, it can cause all kinds of problems. So try and differentiate between the physical and the emotional bit of the hunger, right?
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. We will ask Modlamin to unmute himself and pose his question. Modlamin, please unmute yourself. Yes, please go ahead. Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Please go ahead with your question.
Yes, thank you very much for this presentation. Yeah, I have a lot of family members who have diabetes, and I heard that diabetes is diabetes, yes. And I heard that is hereditary. It can be inherited. So what are some of your advice that I should be doing with regards to my eating and, you know, other things?
The first thing when it comes to diabetes and your question about, you're thinking that it's hereditary. Of course, most diseases have a genetic component to it, but diabetes, especially type 2 diabetes, apart from the genetic component, it has a very important lifestyle component. Many times, the food habits and are actually genetic and not the disease itself. Now, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, where you don't require to take insulin, is normally caused by insulin resistance. So the first thing, I don't know if you are a normal weight diabetic or an overweight diabetic. So if you're an overweight diabetic or an obese diabetic, the first thing to improve diabetes is to lose weight, right? If you have excess weight, you have to lose your weight, because if you lose weight, your diabetes comes under control. Number two is coming to the diet again. What you need to see is that what we prescribe to most people with diabetes is something called a low GI diet, a low glycemic index diet, whereby we mean that whenever you're eating carbohydrate, whenever you're eating a meal, every meal which you're eating should have some protein with it, right? So make sure that you're eating enough protein in your diet, because if you just eat carbohydrates, your sugar will go up and will not, will stay raised because you have diabetes. So the amount of protein is very, very important. Again, another thing which is very important is enough fiber in the diet. So, a lot of diabetics are scared of eating, grains. They think that rice will increase diabetes or fruits will increase diabetes, your sugar levels. So don't worry about that. You need to eat, everything can be given to you depending on, your calorie needs, and that needs to be worked out for every individual really. So again, the amount which we prescribe matters. So if you have a fruit per se, like you are only allowed a certain amount of fruit. Say we give something called the fruit exchange list to diabetics to manage the carbohydrate levels. So say if you want to have an orange, you can only have a certain amount of orange. You can only have one medium-sized orange, which is equivalent to, say, a mango. Mango is very high in sugar, so you can only have half a cup of mango, or you can have only 1 cup of papaya. So the amount what a diabetic eats matters more than what he eats. So you have to always portion your meal properly, and you have to eat something which we call the low GI diet, where you combine carbohydrate with a protein, and your carbohydrate amount cannot be very high. You cannot eat. Again, the amount of carbohydrate is determined by the weight of the diabetic patient. So the fiber intake is important, protein intake is important, and the amount of carbohydrate you are eating is important. Another thing which is very important for diabetics is physical activity, because when you get diabetes, you tend to lose muscle, right? And the more muscle you lose, you will increase. Because diabetic is a chronic disease, and if you are losing muscle on an ongoing basis, the breakdown products of muscle breakdown is normally urea and creatinine, and too much of urea and creatinine affects your kidney. So make sure that you are doing physical activity so that you don't lose muscle mass. And that's why it's also important to eat protein-rich diet.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Hena. We have one more question, and this is on lowering blood pressure. Can this be, or rather, can lower blood pressure be a cause of bad healthy nutrition? That's one question. And I'll just try to take a couple of more questions. There's a question on what is the minimum amount of hours one needs to take when he sleeps? And again, related to the sleep, can a person break his sleep in the night and also, sleep in the afternoon? So instead of sleeping 8 hours, I sleep 6 hours at night, and 6 hours in the night, and 2 hours during the afternoon.
The first question was about low blood pressure, right?
Yeah, low blood pressure, can the cause be due to bad nutrition? Unhealthy nutrition.
Yeah, it could be because of unhealthy nutrition. Say, for instance, if you have, you don't eat enough, you eat very less, you are, some people, when they try to lose weight, they give up on certain food groups and things like that. You could, because of which you can, have low blood pressure. because even if you have anemia, if you have lack of iron in your blood, you could have a B12 deficiency. So any of these deficiencies can lead to low blood pressure. Sometimes you'll be surprised to hear that sometimes when people drink too much water, they have a lot of water because they think water is healthy. Even that sometimes leads to low blood pressure, because when you drink too much of water, you don't have enough electrolytes in your body. You dilute your sodium potassium, which can also lead to feeling, which can drop your blood pressure as well. And saying that, at the same time, if you get dehydrated, if you don't drink enough water, and dehydration can also cause low blood pressure.
So are we saying, sorry.
Yeah. So, if you tend to get low BP often, then, you should take a glass of water, put some lime, put little salt and little sugar in it and drink it. Because an electrolyte imbalance can also lead to, low blood pressure.
So just a question, before you go to the next question, and this is just something which came in my mind. Are you suggesting, therefore, that there is absolutely no standard fix for any person? Everyone will have to look into their personal health situation and then plan their nutrition accordingly, correct?
Of course, there is a generic formulas, but it's not applicable because everybody's lifestyle is different. Now, say if you live in a very humid and hot condition and you work outdoors more, you would get dehydrated very often, if you don't drink enough water, and your water requirements will be very different. Say you are a person who is active in sports, who is very, very active. His requirements will be much different from somebody who is at home. Say, you are staying in a AC environment and you're most of the time you're indoors. Your requirement for water will be very different to somebody who's outdoor. And also, the place where you live and where you come from. So, and then again, your body weight also determines how much water you need to drink. But the best way to find out is to check the color of your urine. If it's dark, that means you're not drinking enough water.
Okay. We also had questions on the sleep habits, minimum hours that one should sleep, and can they break their sleep pattern into night and day?
Well, as far as sleep is concerned, the nighttime sleep is very, very important to re-energize your body, to recover your body from the daily wear and tear. So it's important that you, at least minimum of 6 to 7 hours is extremely important for you to, sleep at night. If there's a break in between for a few hours, that's okay. But, you must get up and go back to sleep and try and cover as many hours as you can. A lot of people, they try to, what they do is during the weekdays, they try to sleep like 4 or 5 hours and think during the weekend they can catch up. And now this is being discouraged by sleep scientists all over the world. They call it something called social jet lag. Your body will be in a state of jet lag. Like if you are traveling to different time zones, the way you feel when you get jet lag, if you keep on doing the same thing every week, your body will go through the social jet lag, and it will. These are things that leads to depression and anxiety and mood disorders. So it's it's not advocated at all. So minimum I say would be at least 6 to 7 hours of sleep is what is required. You can break it, but you must sleep that much at least. So it's all about time management, how you manage your time, because sleep is very, very essential for the recovery of your body.
Okay.
The other part is about the nap bit, which you do during the afternoon. You can't compensate for night sleep with the afternoon sleep. Now, afternoon sleep is a good thing. We all know Islamically, and even science has proven that. But these naps, should be very short. If you sleep more than, say, 35, 40 minutes, it's not a nap. It will make you more sluggish, and it will, decrease your productivity. You won't feel, you will take at least 2 hours if you sleep for 2 hours and you wake up, it will take you at least 2 hours to recharge again. So a nap should not exceed more than 1 hour at best, right?
Okay.
So I think this is what I think about sleep, really.
All right. We will take a few more questions and then we'll wrap up. There's a question from Abu Dhabi, UAE. The brother would like to know, if I take green chili every day with my meal, at least one, will it have an effect on my health or on in my stomach? That's one question. The second question is, we've done the sleep bit. There's a question on any recommendation on how one can improve their memory or their brain power.
Right. Talking about green chilies, green chili is very rich in antioxidants. It's also rich in vitamin C. So there's actually no harm in having one green chili with your meal if you can tolerate it. I don't see any harm. But say if you're prone to acidity and heartburn and things like that, or if you're prone to digestive disorders, too much of hot food, like regular consumption of it, can lead to excessive consumption of it can lead to peptic ulcers in the long run. So if you're not prone to gastric issues, then you can definitely have it. But if you are prone to something like that, then you must consider not having it that regularly. And the second question was?
Hello.
Hello.
The second question was on any recommendation to increase the brain power, memory, etc.
Well, again, if your body is in a state of balance, your brain will also function well. If you provide it enough nutrients, your brain will anyway function well. But the brain, enhancing foods are foods which are rich in magnesium, which are rich in omega-3 fatty acids. So when you talk about magnesium, things like nuts, walnut itself looks like looks like the shape of a brain. So things like walnuts, oily fishes, these are things which are very, very good for the brain, right? And again, as I'd say, for brain function, adequate sleep is very important. A good mindset is very, very important. And then, it's also very important to keep on using your brain. Like if you want your brain to function well, you must read and write. If you read and write, you actually kind of, how should I put it? You are challenging your brain every day and you're using it. So the more you use your brain, the brain function improves. And if you don't use your brain, the brain functions decline. So it's very important that, and again, one thing which is very, very important for brain function is hydration. If you don't drink enough water, your brain function diminishes. So apart from eating a balanced diet, which is rich in magnesium and omega-3 fatty acids, hydration is extremely important. And of course, sleep and stress management.
Okay, thank you so much. There's a question which is asking about on having fruits at night. And there's a question which I would like to add, because we're trying to do this from the perspective of students who would be probably moving on to their career later on. We always find and often find in many offices, you have coffee and tea available at any point of time. And we find many people who are sitting in this environment, if they just want to step out and have a discussion with some colleagues, they have coffee. They have no count over it. They keep having coffee and tea throughout the day. What are the harmful effects of this, and how can they actually replace it, or is there no need to worry about all this?
Well, when it comes to caffeine, too much of anything is bad. See, anything we're talking about here, whether it's water intake, whether it is protein intake, whether it's carbohydrate intake, everything has to be, balanced and in adequate amount. And that adequate amount varies from people to people, right? So, as far as caffeine is concerned, if you if you have like say 5-6 cups or 7-8 cups of coffee the whole day, then that's excessive consumption. A normal consumption of coffee can vary between 2, maximum 3 cups of coffee in a day, right? So when you have too much of caffeine, one thing which it's a stimulant. What happens is when you have it, it gives you a kick and your energy levels peaks up. It goes up so fast and it drops very fast also. Then when the caffeine starts receding in your bloodstream, the energy levels dips also. So it gives you a boost of energy, but actually in the long run, it saps you of energy. So too much of caffeine can do that to you. It will actually make you very tired and lethargic and lazy. Number 2 is too much of caffeine can affect sleep quality in a lot of people. Number 3 is it can increase some people's heart rate also. You can feel, if you get too much of palpitation, or you just start feeling jittery on and off, it could be because of coffee. And another thing which excessive caffeine does is it actually dehydrates you. So if you get dehydrated, it again affects mental function. So, that's why, you can't have too much of coffee, but, 2 cups is good enough. But at the same time, there has been a study called the Stanford study, which was done in the US in Stanford University, where they found that genetically, there are some people who are, very good metabolizers of caffeine. Now, people who are good metabolizers of caffeine, they tend to do well on caffeine. Their cognitive function, that means their learning, their focus, all that improves with caffeine. Their heart rate becomes better with caffeine. It protects them from cardiovascular diseases. But if you're a poor metabolizer of caffeine, it will have adverse reactions on you, because there are some people who drink have coffee, but they can still sleep well. But there's some people, even if they have half a cup of coffee and they can't sleep. So, the best thing is for people to look at cues within themselves and see that, how do they react to when they have 5-6 cups of coffee in a day? Does it work well for them, or does it not work well for them? But as a generic rule of thumb, too much of excessive consumption of coffee has adverse health outcomes.
Okay, and the question on fruits, can we have it at night?
You can have it at night. It's not that you cannot, but like people who have insulin resistance, if they eat fruits at night, it can increase the insulin level at night. So, and that can have a carryover, effect in the morning. They'll wake up with a high insulin, and so it's not advice for people, who have belly fat, because that's the biggest marker of insulin resistance. So, if you have a big belly, don't have fruits at night. But if you don't, you can.
Okay.
But there's no rule as such that you can't have fruits at night. Like, say you have a very early dinner and you sleep late, rather than eating anything junk or fried or some processed or packaged foods, fruit is a better option. And I always advise that fruit should be used as a snack. A lot of time people use, they eat, they have a meal and then, they end up with the fruit. But fruits should always, it's always I always encourage people to use fruit as a snack. So if you have an early dinner, you can definitely have a fruit. But if you have a big belly and if you're trying to reduce that, don't have a fruit at night.
Okay, there's a question, and I think this is a very common concern amongst the youth, most of those who work with call centers and data processing offices. We have a night schedule from 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. How do you suggest I schedule my sleep?
Well, say from 11 to what did you say?
11 p.m. to 8 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, so 11 p.m. to 8 a.m. So, you have to flip your day and your night. So if your work starts at 11 o'clock at night, so you should have your meal at, say, you must be leaving home at around, 9, 10, whatever. So when you wake up, the first meal which you have that at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock, that you have to consider that to be your breakfast actually, right? Then your mid-morning becomes maybe 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock. And then your lunch should be at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, because you have to flip the day and the nights. Like, it's just like moving into a different time zone, going to another country. Like a lot of people who work in call centers, they try, like, say when they finish the shift at 4 o'clock 8 o'clock in the morning, they think that, they can go to the gym or they should go for a walk because that's what everybody else is doing. They shouldn't do that. They should actually go back home, have a dinner, say that 10 o'clock in the morning or whatever, whenever they reach home, whatever they eat, they should consider that to be their dinner, and they should go to sleep at that point of time. So if they sleep at, say, 10 a.m., they should sleep for 8 hours. That means that they would be waking up at 6 o'clock in the evening. And that's where the day starts. So you have to just kind of flip the whole day to night and day, that's how you have to look at it. Because that's the, the circadian rhythm of your body has changed, and you have to work according to that. Because if you try to do things, what you do during the day at night, you will mess up your whole, body in terms of hormones, in terms of, your energy levels, and even your body's recovery and everything like that.
Right. Okay. Thank you so much. We have one more question. There are a lot of questions which have come in. I have not been able to take all of them. We have got limited time. We'll only take one more question. Just on this night sleep patterns which you were mentioning, you did of course mention that if you do have to break your sleep, then you should keep getting back to your sleep, because typically between, let's say, 10 in the morning to 6 in the evening, there are prayer breaks also. You have your Dhuhr Salah, Asr Salah, maybe in some countries Maghrib. Whereas the way sleep has been designed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the night sleep, which is what the body needs, you get that one full stretch over there. So you are being deprived of that. So you are then trying to have those continuous breaks during the day and catching up on the sleep. It will still remain compromised, isn't it?
Yes, of course. that's why you need to clock in those many hours at night.
So, okay, this is the last question that I'm taking from Aisha Khatun. She is saying that her mother and maternal family members, they're all affected with Alzheimer and forgetfulness. And she too is experiencing similar situations where she forgets a lot. How or what should she do now in order to ensure that this doesn't get worse?
Well, as I said earlier also, I mean, Alzheimer's is a progressive degenerative disorder, right? So we need to arrest the degeneration bit in the body as much as we can. And as I said earlier also, she needs to have an adequate diet whereby she doesn't have deficiencies in the body, especially a deficiency of B12. Like a lot of people, the general message is that one should not eat red meat because red meat is, rich in cholesterol and fat and all of that. But, red meat is a very good source of something called B12. And it's also a very good source of iron. Now, B12 deficiency leads to degeneration of the brain, especially it causes nerve damage. So make sure that, you eat a bit of red meat. I'm not saying eat it every day, but at least 3-4 times a week. Make sure that your iron levels are adequate in the blood. So, and if it's low, then you need to have supplements or whatever, and also have iron-rich foods in the diet. Again, omega-3 fatty acids, it reduces inflammation and it arrests degeneration. You should have, enough fruits and vegetables with different colors because, the antioxidants will stop the aging process and the degeneration in the brain. If need be, if you can't consume too much of fruits and vegetables, maybe have an antioxidant supplement if you can. And of course, as the other things which we spoke about earlier is also applicable in this case, adequate sleep, physical activity, enough hydration, all this will help you, to cope with whatever, maybe slow down the whole process for you.
Okay, even though I said last question, but you've answered that just in time for me to take this final question. And then since this has to do with Ramadan, Ramadan is near, and the questioner would like to know, are there any recommendations and suggestions that you have for Muslims who will be breaking their fast, or what should they have at suhoor in order to ensure that they remain active during the day, and ideal food to break your fast with, depending again on people who are spread across different parts of the world, different time zones?
One thing which is very, very important is when we are fasting is that we have to have the proper suhoor, because that's what will make the fasting easy, inshallah, for us. Because, if you don't have, you don't eat the pre-dawn meal properly, you will feel lack of energy, you will feel tired, you won't be able to pray well, you won't be able to even fast well. You'll keep on thinking about food and things like that. So it's very important that you must eat suhoor, because a lot of people, they don't like waking up in the morning, and they miss suhoor. So make sure that, you wake up and you have your suhoor. What is very important is that, a lot of people eat fried food, they eat very sugary stuff, they have desserts and they have, all kinds of things in the morning. Your suhoor should be a very well-balanced meal, something which has slow releasing carbohydrates so that you can, get energy throughout the day. You can have some dates in the morning. You can have, with a glass of milk if you don't feel like eating too much. You can even have an oatmeal porridge. You can even have muesli with milk or yogurt. You could have maybe a small sandwich, with little chicken in it or little cheese on it, so that, you have, when you mix the carbohydrate with protein, the sugar release is slow. It will provide you sustained energy so that you can last, you get fuel for the next 13-14 hours of fasting, which you have to do. And now, it's going to be in summer. So for some people in some countries, that fasting hours are going to be very long. So make sure that, you eat enough at that point of time. And, and don't eat, like, if you eat fried food, your digestion will get affected. If you eat too much sugary stuff, it will give you instant energy, and then, you will feel sapped during the day. The other thing which is very important is hydration again. So make sure that, you drink enough water during sehri and suhoor. And also make sure that when you break your fast, you are, between breaking your fast, between iftar and sehri, you're drinking at least 2 to 3 liters of water, depending on which country you come from. If you are from a hot, humid country, you should at least drink 3 liters of water, if not more. So, this is very, very important. Also, what you eat during iftar is also important, because if you eat very heavy, very rich, oily, fried food during, a very big meal during iftar, even that can, affect your health, because, it can lead to, I've always seen people, they suffer from acidity and gas, and they feel very, very bloated when, during iftar, during Ramadan. And that, when they feel so bloated, it affects their salat, it affects their, prayers and all of that. So make sure that, your iftar is also not very, very heavy. Have, you could have a balanced meal again. You could have, don't have too much of fried things and sugary things when you're breaking your fast. And of course, drink enough water.
Okay, thank you so much. These sessions, which can be heartbreaking for some of those who look for good iftar once in a year, subhanallah. Thank you so much, Hena, for taking your time out and attending the session. Before I close the session, I would want you to let our students and those watching us on YouTube know if they would like to reach out to you. I understand you do offer personal advice as well. You do personal counseling and nutrition advice, etc. as well. So how can they get in touch with you? If you could just let us know your email address, etc. So I can just put it up on the screen right now.
Yeah. Shall I tell you right now?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, it's Nafis, Nafis, Hena, numerical 1 @gmail.com.
Okay, and is there any other contact number, or can they just get in
Call
touch
up
over?
on this number 983, +91 9361 97
9361
no 98361
98361.
67216.
Okay. They can WhatsApp or reach out on this number,
They
right?
can WhatsApp, they can reach out to me. If they have any queries, they can ask
Okay.
me the question.
All right. Thank you so much for taking your time out and addressing our students. This session has been extremely beneficial for me, and I'm sure it has been equally beneficial to all our students. It has served as a very important reminder, and it's also equally important that now we internalize this into our daily lives. Remember, the Corporate Connect sessions are coming with the intention of making us ready for the corporate world. And you don't only have to be ready with your qualifications, your degree, your skills, you also have to be charged up from your health perspective. And we have seen why it is so important to look after your health. Inshallah, we will try and see if we can have Hena Nafis again in the future for more sessions. It will be an honor again to host you. Thank you once again, Hena, for taking your time out. Barakallahu fiki.
Thank you so much.
Shukran. Now, walaikum assalam. Inshallah, before you guys leave, next week we will have with us Sheikh Ismail Kamdar, who has been one of those who was with the International Open University for many years, mashallah. Many of you might have studied with him in some of the courses. Sheikh Ismail Kamdar will be joining us to discuss about some important etiquettes at the workplace. When you're working in an organization, etc., what are the important etiquettes that you should keep in mind from an Islamic perspective as well? So we look forward to you guys joining us next week. Barakallahu feekum. With that, we'll conclude the session. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.